C-level people are always trying to see who can be moved up in the organization, who can present. This video is about how to build confidence in business English for international success, especially tips for Brazilian professionals. Have you ever felt nervous speaking in English in an international meeting or job interview? Let's change that. What do you think are the common feelings or thoughts that Brazilian professionals have before speaking in English in professional settings? I've worked with so many students in Brazil. I know they're concerned about their accents very much, and they're concerned about using the wrong grammar or the vocabulary. Accent is not a problem as long as it doesn't affect the communication. It doesn't affect people understanding you. And if it is affecting it, there are some really good exercises. Try the tongue twisters and try shadowing. These are things that can easily be fixed. I've done it many times with my students. So why is building confidence in business English so important for career advancement? It's kind of an obvious question, but there's still more depth to it than just saying, yes, well, you need good English. You need to be confident. It's one thing to have great vocabulary. It's one thing to have good grammar, understand intonation and that. But we need to understand the basic things about communication. When we're enthusiastic about something, it is contagious. And if we don't believe in something, then we shouldn't be promoting it, should we? We should very politely, professionally, give alternative solutions to the team or the audience that we're presenting to, since we're interested in moving the project ahead in a positive way. Confidence is actually more important in many ways than your English level. Even if you're a B1 or B2 and not an advanced English speaker, if you are confident and you listen carefully and you think about what you're going to say, not the English necessarily to say it, but the message. As a native, I don't expect your English to be perfect if I'm in a meeting with you, but I expect you to give good professional advice. See the difference? And I expect you to listen to my problem. Really think about it. Give it some consideration and make sure that I'm clear expressing the nuances of the problem. So what's the situation that I'm talking about? And so leading to the real problem. Be that great listener. Communication is more about knowing the questions to ask and the ability to really listen and get the other person to explain what their problem is. Maybe they're talking about the pain, but not the real problem. So we need to think about this. This is very important. To be a good communicator, you must be a great listener. Identify the real problem before you give advice. That's like walking into a doctor's office and they just hand you a bottle of pills. Well, what's this for, doctor? I haven't told you what my problem is. So why do so many non-English speakers lack confidence during professional interactions? What's going on here? Personally, I think it's the traditional learning system where people are marked on performance, where people are having to memorize vocabulary, and they're being marked on subtle little things about grammar, but they're not learning it naturally. Thinking about the business problem or the IT problem or the medical problem or whatever profession you're in. Not being used to think about your English. You need to build natural English. You can express yourself. And you express yourself because the professional idea is there in your head. And you have, as long as you're B1, B2, you should have the English already pretty much naturally speak to the problem. And if you don't, then I have some targeted language for you. The main thing is making sure that you fully understand the person. That's the most important thing. So many people are just listening so that they can talk. They're not really listening. They're not truly understanding. They're not asking the questions about the missing information. It's what the person's not expressing very often that's so important. How can a lack of confidence affect career opportunities? This is a really interesting question. I've had a number of students come to me where their bosses have said to them, we really wonder if your English is good enough for this job. And I've assessed their English, and their English is great. But the problem is, and the boss will often say it, well, you're not speaking in meetings. You're not expressing yourself. You're not asking questions. You're not giving your opinion. If you disagree, you're not speaking up. We're not hearing your professional advice. This is the main way it can affect your career. You need to be engaged, just like you are in your first language. So if you're in Brazil and you're a Portuguese speaker, yes, if you're in your Portuguese team, you're probably confident enough to speak up and give your opinions. Maybe you'll say something like, well, that's very interesting. However, I have to tell you, in our last team, we tried the same approach, and it didn't really work well because of this. And we altered it somewhat by taking this kind of more active engagement, worked through it with the client, and we had an incredible result. So you have to get to the point where you can say this in English, but you say it after you've listened and you really understand, and you do believe in what you're saying. So we listen carefully, we process it, we consider it, and then we speak with confidence in a very concise way. So we get our message across. It's all about communication. It's not necessarily your English. It's the same communication skills you might use in Spanish or Portuguese or whatever. Are there studies or proof that this is actually affecting people's careers? Absolutely. There was a study done at Cambridge that said that over 80% of foreign English speakers their careers are being affected because they're not speaking and they lack confidence. Confidence is what it's about. Most of my very successful students are specialists in their fields. They have a lot to say, but their English is not necessarily perfect. And of course, it's not going to be perfect. My English is not perfect. But many of them are not advanced English speakers, but they have a good level of English. They're in the intermediate, maybe approaching the upper intermediate. Maybe they're kind of that advanced intermediate level. Really listen, and they ask the right questions, and they dig out, they find out what the true situation is and the problem, and then they can understand the implications of taking this action or that action, and they come up with incredible advice that the client values. The client doesn't worry so much if they drop an article or a preposition and make a little mistake here or there, as long as the client can understand you. One thing I do focus on is good pronunciation, just so people do understand you. And it's very easy to fix people who have poor pronunciation. There's some exercises I do with them all the time. It makes a big difference. Plus, intonation is very, very important in getting people to fully understand you. So getting back to, well, why do we not have the confidence that we need? There are many reasons. I would say most of it is just a feeling of insecurity, the fear of making mistakes. And how do you get over this? You get over it by doing. In sessions I have with my students, we do a lot of role playing. Sometimes in community, we'll have 4 or 5 people sitting around, and we're having where people take different roles and they speak in the group. And this is the kind of success that you need. You need to be successful in a safe place to get the reassurance that you can communicate, that everybody is understanding you clearly and you're getting the message through. And if you're not getting the message, we'll ask you for clarification. And guess what? Once you do this a number of times, you're going to have the confidence to speak in an English meeting. A lot of my students in international companies asked by one of the C-suite people to give a presentation in English to a group of people. And many people try to avoid this, but this fear will hold them back. Because this is kind of a test, because management, C-level people are always trying to see who can be moved up in the organization, who can present, who can mentor, who can give their experience to others. So this is an opportunity for you to be promoted, to show your knowledge, to show your expertise. So you need to grab these opportunities to give a good presentation. And remember, your presentation is mostly about your presenting skills, not necessarily your English, as long as you can be understood. Doesn't matter if you haven't got quite the right vocabulary for something. You can always dance around it. There are so many ways to say something in English. It doesn't have to be the perfect word. What it has to be just simple, clear English. Okay, simple and clear English. Does it all the time. People that use a lot of eloquent English sometimes lose the audience. And the audience just sort of says, oh, this person's just trying to look smart. And then they kind of look stupid. How many times in your own language have you experienced this? People are sort of talking above the audience, not speaking to the audience, not speaking to them as friends, not speaking in the now, the present. That's so important. We need to make these things part of ourselves. This is what the difference is. This is what a great communicator is. Using things like pausing. You make a statement, pause. Let them process it. Let them think about it. Let them ask you a question. Maybe you ask them a question. Don't just jump on to something else. Wait. Pause. Let them process. Let them ask you a question. When you pause, it puts emphasis on it. It shows them it's important. And maybe you leave it hanging. And they're saying, well, what's the answer? And then you deliver. It's so amazing. When you adapt these things and just people, I do it myself. I get in front of a camera. I'm nervous and my voice changes and I don't know what to say sometimes. But guess what? The more of these things you do, the more natural it becomes to you. And we see ourselves speaking to friends and that. And just like you're sitting in your living room speaking to these people. Human to human, adult to adult, professional to professional. But in a conversational way, a way that we relate, we connect with our audience. And so many people, and this is very, very common with the people I work with, pretty much all my clients are engineers, financial experts, they're project managers, they've moved up in their native country, and they feel they need to be perfect. Well, we have to get over this because we are imperfect. We are humans. We can't be perfect in everything. We can't know everything until they start putting implants in our heads and maybe be attached to AI or something. But then what happens to us? Are we humans anymore? It's our imperfections that make us human. I think that's the issue with AI is when people put too much AI in their content, we just sound like we're not humans. So accept your imperfection and every day just try to be a little better. But most important, how are you relating with your audience? What is the value that you're giving your audience? Take away this pressure to be perfect. Don't let it impact your performance. If you're in a meeting and you make a small error, but your message is clear, you don't have to get all hung up on it. You don't have to feel like you failed or something. It's a little thing. It's in the context of the whole picture. It's nothing. Just laugh it off. They know that English is not your first language. It's just like if I could speak decent Portuguese and I was in a meeting and I had something important to say and I was speaking Portuguese, as long as you could understand me, I was using simple and clear Portuguese. It's my message that I'm delivering that you'd be interested in. It's not trying to prove to you how perfect my Portuguese is it? You just say, well, Bert's not a native Portuguese speaker. I don't expect him to speak like that. It's the same in English. We don't expect you to speak perfect English. Now, some people speak very good English, and that's fine. But maybe they don't deliver the right message. Maybe their message has no value. Consider this. Consider the value of your message. And this goes right with this other question I got. Why do some people compare themselves to native speakers, and how does it affect their confidence? They have an unrealistic expectation, just like I was saying. They think they can be perfect. Nobody is perfect. Get over it. Be yourself. Now, what are some strategies to improve your English? Well, I've already mentioned role playing in group. This is very important. So you play different roles, you get feedback from the group. When we're going to do something, we prepare for it. So we put in a little extra effort. Maybe we are a little mindful of getting those irregular verbs in there or something. But we review it before the meeting just so we have some irregulars. Or we remember, just make sure I do the future right. And you don't need all these. You don't need to be using past and present future or continuous future, perfect tenses or anything like this. You can keep it simple. Just work with the simple past, present, and future. You don't have to get really fancy. Now, if you get to the point where English becomes more comfortable for you, yeah, maybe you'll use a mixed conditional or something, but it's not necessary. Not necessary at all. So remember to role play. Do these role playing exercises as much as you can. I've found a great deal of value with working with my clients in role playing, in groups especially. Now, how could you do it at home? Well, of course, I do a lot of online classes with my clients, but if you have the paid version of ChatGPT, you could even do it with ChatGPT, the advanced voice module to it. You do it on your phone, so you have your ChatGPT module application on your phone, and then you can speak back and forth to it. And then there's certainly other apps that will do the same thing. And what would be some of the key elements to include? Take different roles. So maybe you're the person who is the owner and you're listening and you're responding, you're asking questions. Maybe you're the consultant or the coach or whatever, or the developer, project manager. Take the different roles, experiment with. Now, the other technique is shadowing. Find somebody your age, find somebody in the same profession you are, same sex and that, and tape them. And then see if you can speak exactly like they speak. Listen to yourself, record yourself, and then just compare yourself. Make little improvements along. That's why it's so effective. Gives you good pronunciation, good intonation. It does take practice. Practice makes perfect is what we say, but I don't want you to be perfect, but it makes you better. How will we say? Practice makes you better. And how would you do this in business? Well, there's lots of stuff on YouTube and that. You'll find stuff from me. You'll find stuff from everybody with business conversations. And you can use these to shadow. Now, the other technique is just to simplify your language. Don't go in there with something too complicated. Don't go into a meeting thinking that you've memorized the speech, because you're bound to lose it. It's just like trying to do a presentation and you're just reading the presentation. It doesn't work. It throws you off track when you make a little mistake or you forget something or somebody asks you a question and then you can't find your place in your little script. Doesn't work. Keep it simple. Maybe you have an outline. You have your points. You kind of have a checklist. I did a lot of flying, and every pilot will tell you how important a checklist is for pilots. Keeps us on track, keeps our planes in the air. And it's the same for anything we do, isn't it? Having a little checklist, having a list of points that we want to cover. More than just the agenda, some sub-points to each item on the agenda. But we use our own language. Keep it simple and clear. That's what communication is. And truly listen to people and ask clarifying questions and that. Get to the heart of the matter. You don't have to use complex business English. Simplify that language. As you speak and speak more, you're going to have more confidence, and your vocabulary may upgrade because you're reading and you're using this stuff daily, and you're not really having to think about it. It all happens. It happens naturally. Just give yourself time. And when you do a presentation in English, and you've used clear and simple communication, and people are clapping, and they love what you say, and they're asking questions, you're getting engagement in that, you're going to have to it's going to impact your confidence. You're going to become more and more confident. And if you didn't get what you want, well, then it's going to motivate you maybe to be a little more prepared the next time. But engage. If you engage with your audience and you're using clear, simple English, and you're asking the questions and you're getting opinions and you're responding to them, they're going to think you're perfect. They're going to think you're really good. You're a great communicator. Another thing is just confidence boosters. Get in there. First of all, prepare. Preparation is very important if you're doing a presentation or you have the agenda for a meeting and there's certain points in the meeting that you want to respond to. Affirmations. Tell yourself that you have the language to work in this company. They hired you. They realized that your English was good enough. Okay? You're not an imposter. They made a decision. You probably had 3 or 4 interviews before you got this opportunity. You've used your English before. Let it go. Let go of it. Get rid of that fear and speak. So, preparation, affirmation. Tell yourself you're good enough. I always tell my students to read out loud. Read a little English out loud before the meeting, just to open up your English mind. Maybe for the last 3 days you've only been speaking Portuguese, but now you want to use your English. So read a little bit out loud. This will open your English mind. The vocabulary will be a little better. Pronunciation will probably be a lot better. You'll get some intonation. It's amazing. Just 5-10 minutes of reading aloud gets you back in that English mode. And don't forget those affirmations, telling yourself. The more you tell yourself, the more you succeed using English, the stronger your belief will be that you're good in English. But if we allow our fear to govern us, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's just like that schoolyard bully that we fear them. But eventually you have to stand up to a bully. Don't let English, your fear of English, be that bully. Take it on. Do it. Speak. If you really need help, then engage with somebody like myself. Do a 15-minute call with me, a free call, and just see where you are. See if your English is good enough. And see if you want to polish something. I'm here to help you. I have a 10-week transformation program that will take you from where you are today to a much higher level at the end. And you will get the practice and the confidence that you need to present and speak in meetings and give your opinions on that. I also have a 10-question business English quiz that will show you where you are today. And I before people speak with me, have a chat with me, I like it if they do that. And then we have a roadmap and we find out if there's anything we need to fix. I hope you'll engage. I hope you liked this. I hope you will share it with your friends. I hope you'll subscribe. I hope you will do that 10-question quiz. It's only about a 5-minute exercise. And I will send you a comprehensive report also. And if you're really feeling like you want to step ahead and change where you are now, then I suggest you grab that link in the description and book a 15-minute meeting with me. It's not going to cost you anything. I guarantee you, I'm just as interested in you making sure people are qualified, if they're thinking about my 10-week program, that they are qualified to do an intensive program like that, and that they're motivated, and that they really need it. Some people don't need it. So that'd be pretty frustrating for me too, to work with them for 10 weeks when they don't need it.